So let's start with SSH. We have 6 questions, okay, and they are providing us with a SSH authentication log, okay. According to the Ncl website, this is an easy challenge, okay. So who knows? Maybe yes, maybe no. So something basic that you need to understand about the SSH service or secure shell, okay. This service follows the client-server model, okay? So you have on one side of the communication, you have a client, okay? Someone that is trying to access a remote resource, okay? And that remote resource is a server, okay? And so basically what happens is the server, makes the service available via port 22, okay? So it exposes the computer, the system, using port 22. Okay. Now, just a quick comment about this, about the word or the term server. Okay. Some people, when they hear the word server, they think of a server like a big computer or a powerful computer on a rack, in an organization. That's not necessarily like the definition of a server. Whenever you hear the term server, is basically any device or any technology that provides a service or make available makes a service available for other people to use. Okay, because for example, you can create a server, or your laptop could be a server if you just make the SSH service available for anyone to connect to your computer, for example. Okay, so this is a very general description of how the service works. But again, in our next session at All Cyber, we can talk about we can talk more about this. Okay. Now, and one example of the SSH service, if you have a Kali Linux machine in your computer, in your personal computer, you can check the configuration files for the SSH service. Okay, and something important to note here is that Kali can work. I mean, as from an SSH service perspective, remember that we have two, right? Client and server. So the client is trying to access the server is providing the service. So when you access the /etc/ssh directory, you will find two files, ssh_config and sshd_config. And you might be asking yourself, why Kali has two, the only difference is the letter D. So this means that whenever you need to access a remote service, okay, Kali will act as a client. Okay, so that's why you can use this file on the left side of your screen. But what if you want to make your system, your Kali Linux system, available for other people to access? In that case, Kali is playing the role of a server. Okay, so for that you have another file. You have the sshd config. Okay, so in both files you can modify the configuration. For example, this on the right side here for the server configuration, you can specify the port. Okay, by default it's using 22, but you can change, right, and use any other different port. So this is a good example of how can you use Kali as a client or as a server when it comes to SSH, when it comes to the SSH service. Okay, now if you run systemctl status SSH, right, you will see if the SSH service is running or not in your computer. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, by default, when you download Kali, okay, by default you can use Kali as a client. Okay, so you can just SSH to any remote computer. But if you want to use Kali as a server, you need to configure other stuff in your system. Okay, so in this case, I'm using the Kali Linux virtual machine that is part of Virginia Cyber Range, and it has the server configuration ready to use. Okay, so that's why I'm getting the status is active, right, and running. But if you have your own Kali Linux system, there are multiple options. Like you can do systemctl start, stop, restart, status, enable, disable, and then the name of the service, in this case SSH. If you haven't configured the server the SSH server configuration for Kali, you might not get the same output. Okay, and that's it. So we can then start working on the authentication log. But before I start working on the Ncl challenge, we will need to manipulate the authentication. I mean, you can do it, just by reading the content of the file. But if in case you want to learn how to manipulate the content of this file, trying to identify specific patterns, maybe count a specific, I don't know, maybe the different users that you have, or if you want to see how many failure attempts you have for a specific user, there are different utilities that you can use in Linux. For example, cat, grep, cut, sort, and unique. Okay, so I'm sharing with you this link. In this video, this person shares or explains how can you use all these commands to manipulate and analyze the content of the authentication log file. Okay, so let's go to the Ncl website. As you can see, we are starting the log analysis module of the gymnasium. Okay, so let's go to log analysis, and here are the questions. Here is the solution guide. Okay, so we will try to access this. Let's try to solve this just by using the website. Okay, and then at the end I will show you how can you start responding. I mean, how can you start analyzing the file using commands like cat and grep. Okay, so let's see. First question, it says, what is the host name of the SSH server that was compromised? Okay, so even though they are providing us with a file, okay, you don't need to download the file necessarily, okay, because they are providing us with a view of the file here already. So it says that to answer this first question, we just need to read the file, and it says that the host name is directly after the timestamp for each entry in the log. So as you can see, at the beginning you have the timestamp here, okay, and then you have a name here. So this is the host name, okay. So it's gonna be my Raptor. So let's go here, my Raptor. Yep, first question, okay. Second question is, what is the first IP address to what was the first IP address to attack the server? Okay, so let's go to the solution guide. It says, this can be solved by identifying the IP address of the attacker in the first failed password entries. Okay, so there are, as you can see, each row of this file has like different types of messages. So I guess the failed password is, I mean, depending on the configuration of the SSH server, okay, sometimes you need to provide credentials like a user and password, or maybe you can use a public key file or a private key file, and there are more options, right, to authenticate and access the remote service. But apparently it looks like this server is configured so you can you need to provide credentials like user and passwords. So whenever you type the wrong password, you might get this message. Okay. So if we read this, I mean, the top of the file shows you the initial logs, and then the most recent logs are at the bottom of the file. Okay, so let's see. Let's start from top to bottom. Let's look for the first failed password. Is this one? Okay, so someone from this IP 169.139.243.218 try to access the SSH service, but they failed. So I mean, this could be a person that just type its password there in an incorrect way, or it could be an attacker that is trying to guess the password. Okay, so I guess this is the answer for the second question, because that's the first failed password log. Okay, so it's going to be 169.139.243.218. Okay, now the second one. Okay, let's look for the next. I mean, it's the same IP address, so I guess it's someone trying to access the system from the same computer. So let's look for a failed password log that has a different IP. Okay, so this one is different. So it's 56.13.188.38. Okay, now there is a third one. Okay, another fail. Yeah, this is a different IP, which is what is really interesting here is that they are using the same user. See, Harvey, different IPs, fail. So definitely someone is attacking the system, or someone is trying to compromise Harvey. Okay. So third IP is 30.167.206 and then 91. Yep. Now the next question is which user was targeted in the attack? Of course, I just mentioned this before. You see all the failed password messages here or logs are coming from different IPs, but the user is the same for all of them. So Harvey must be the user, under attack. So let's do Harvey. Yep. Now, the last question says, from which IP address was the attacker able to successfully log in? Okay, so I guess whenever you make a mistake with a password, right, you get a failed password message. But what if you use the correct password, right? So there may be a message saying that the password is correct or something like that. So if you go to the bottom, let's see. Yeah, here. It's almost at the end of the file. It says accepted password for Harvey from this IP. Okay. So let's see. 30.167.206.291. Yep, that's it. Now, as you can see, it was kind of difficult, trying to there are a lot of files, a lot of logs, right? A lot of entries in this authentication log. So if you try just to read the file and scroll over it, it's going to be, you may or you may not miss something, right? That's why another way to access this is you can download the file and use any other tools. Okay, so that's what I did here. So here's my Kali Linux machine. I downloaded the file, okay, the auth.log, and see, we do ls-al of my downloads folder. Here's my file. Okay, so as usual, first things first, let's use the MD5 checksum. Okay, downloads, auth, and let's go to the website. Let's copy the MD5 checksum. Let's paste it here, and yeah, it is the same. Okay, so we downloaded. I mean, this is not part of the password, but it's a good practice for you. You know, as you're trying to become a cybersecurity professional, you always need to verify whatever you download from the internet. Just you need to verify that is the correct file. Okay, cool. So now what we are going to do is, let me introduce you to the cat command. Okay, in case you don't know about cat, just run man cat so you can get the manual for this utility. It says it concatenate files and print on the standard output. Okay, so you can see the content. Oops. Okay, so let's do cat, and then the path to the file, downloads, and then auth. Oops. See? So similar, I mean, this is the entire file, you know, kind of similar to what we have here, right? We are accessing all the content. Okay, but that's not the idea of cat. Now, what we can do is we can use cat. Let me clear the screen. So we can use this output, and we can look for specific patterns. Okay, characters, words, phrases, and since the challenge is about, you know, an attacker guessing the password for Harvey. Okay, and we know that there are two types of messages regarding, you know, passwords, or at least, right, there may be more, but we have failed password, and we have at the end accepted password, right? So let's do this. Let's do there is another utility that you can use, which is grep. Okay, maybe you already know about grep, but just in case, let's check the manual for grep. Okay, so it says it prints lines that match patterns. Okay, interesting. So, and what else? There are a lot of options for this grep command. Okay, so let's go and just do cat, you know, downloads, the log, and then we're going to use the pipe command, right? So whatever output we get from cat, now let's use on that output, let's use the grep command. Okay, and we are looking for, let's just look for the word password. Okay, so here are all the messages. So I guess this one is easier, you know, to identify, oh, this is the first IP, this is the second IP, this is the third IP, and you can see everything for Harvey, right? That's nice. And at the end, you have the accepted message. Okay, this is another way that you can use to answer the questions. Okay, now I just shared with you cat and grep, but remember that there are more utilities like cut, sort, and unique, for example. Okay, so I recommend you guys to watch this video, or, you know, you can do your own research too. Okay, so that's it. That's how we completed the first challenge, SSH. Thank you.